Hey everyone, been a while, but I'm back with a video for a game called Tales and Tactics, which I think might be of interest to the viewers of this channel. I've managed to dodge COVID-19 for 3.5 years or so, and I finally got it about a month ago. And it's hit me pretty hard, and I'm recovering slowly. You can probably hear it in my voice. But this week I sort of decided to try and, go out and see some people do some stuff, spend some energy, and just about wiped me out. And I, with perfect timing, bought this game a couple days ago, thinking it would be relaxing, and it is. And I've played about 14 hours of this over the course of the last 3 days or so, while just like resting my body and my brain. Tales and Tactics is kind of an interesting case. It's in early access, and I feel like it shows. There's a lot of polish and graphical oomph, I guess, that the game does feel a little bit like it's missing. But at the same time, I think it's actually got a really strong concept, and I've very much enjoyed exploring what is there. I find it quite satisfying just sort of playing through it. The game is structurally a roguelike auto-battler, single player. So some of you might be familiar with auto-battlers, a relatively new genre of competitive game. Usually played between groups of 6 to 8 people. I think most of them are 8, right? Examples include Dota Auto Chess, that was the first one. And then it's there's two main imitators are TFT, Teamfight Tactics, and Dota Underlords, which very quickly followed it. And now there's a bunch of them, including Hearthstone Battlegrounds, which is the only one I've personally played, which takes its own spin on it. Most of them, including Auto Chess, have a board where you position your units ahead of each fight. But unlike, let's say, Duelist, plucking an example out of the air, you don't actually control them during battle. You position them to start with, and you decide what your units are going to be. But they fight on their own, hence the auto-battler name. And in between each round of combat, you have access to more and better units from a shop that you can repeatedly rotate through to try and find either better units, more synergistic units, or more copies of units you already have, which if you accumulate enough copies of them, they upgrade, becoming stronger. That's kind of the core of this game. So I'm going to sort of, apologize is the wrong word. There will be some UI slight jank. I'm not going to talk about all of it. But I think the UI of this game does need a little bit of polish. Like this layout's a bit strange, for instance. There's a lot of little things like that I feel are a bit... will probably improve over the course of the early access period. I'm going to skip the training yard fights, which are just like introductory warm-up. This game has an interesting difficulty system where in most of these roguelike type games, structurally, I want to compare this to like Slay the Spire, right? In most of these type of games, there are defined difficulty levels, but there's a lot of them. So Slay the Spire has effectively 21 difficulty levels. There's the starting difficulty and then Ascensions 1 through 20. Monster Train has likewise 26. Covenant 0 to 25. This game has a difficulty system that's more like the one in Hades, where you can apply modifiers that you can stack up, and you can actually tune them yourself. But there's also a recommended system. I kind of like this as an idea because it gives you a lot of flexibility. Like these are all things I've unlocked, all of which will make the game harder on the recommended system. And you can kind of turn all of these on and off, but most of them make the game more fun, with the exception of this one. Which is, it gives you, if you've played Monster Train, this is similar to a thing in Monster Train where you can make the fight harder, but for better rewards. But in this case, the rewards are kind of paltry, and if you fail it, you probably die. Like it just ends your run. And if you decide not to take it, you still get a debuff. So I found these to be, I think that needs a bit of rebalancing. Everything else, I think, has been net positive. Looking at difficulty, so you can see there's a few things that it's kind of automatically assigned here. But there's actually loads of... it gets much harder than I had realized. That's kind of good to know, actually, because so far the game has mostly been fairly easy. It is starting to show a bit more teeth now that I've unlocked more of the mastery tree, but I haven't actually been tweaking this. I've just been going with what it recommends. There are a number of characters. You start with this one, Singram, so I guess we'll play them first. At the beginning, they have no abilities whatsoever. You have to unlock them, but you can do so quite quickly. And then once you've unlocked characters having each of these slots you have to unlock, but then all of the characters have their own unique abilities. This game has generally a very cheery, warm tone, almost to an excessive degree. Like, you're coming here to enter a big tournament, but everyone's really friendly and no one's angry at each other. There's like a bit where it gives you a little narrative choice. You know, you can agree with one character or another as they're having a discussion, but it's a very friendly academic debate, and no one's put out by you agreeing one way or the other. And it's, you know, the person you didn't choose will be like, so and so is displeased. They're not actually displeased. It just makes the end boss harder. So the art kind of reflects that. We'll start with this character. They have some pretty... they start with more units, which is quite nice. So here's the screen. You'll notice my camera is not in its usual bottom left place, and that is because I have slotted it into the one place on the screen that isn't full of something important most of the time. So we have our board in the middle with some enemy units that I'm going to fight when I press this big button up here. I've got my health. If I lose this, I die. And then some other stuff like my resources, my level. Up here it shows your... I don't know what these are even called, but upgrades basically. So equivalent of relics in Slay the Spire. Down here we've got our sort of... Okay, I don't even know what this is called. This is kind of like your hand in Battlegrounds. There's a storage area for units. You can only go to combat with a certain number of units, which is shown here. I can have 4 in play. But when you're buying and selling, you can actually have as many in play as you want. You just can't go to combat until you've trimmed down, which is actually really nice. It's much friendlier than Battlegrounds, where you cannot ever have more than 7 units in play, ever. You can reroll the shop. You get a free reroll every combat. I've got some built-up ones here that you start with. And here is the shop itself. So there's always 5 units on offer. Right now we're only allowed access to commons, which cost 1 gold. Well, they're called star points. I don't know why they're called star points. But 1 of the money. I can spend some money to invest, which gives me an upgrade. So this is something where... I quite like this, actually, this vault. It sounds like a thing where you'd bank... You can bank resources now for a long-term payoff. How it actually more works is like, instead of just rolling forever hoping for more duplicates of the things you need, you can use the vault to spend money and reliably get some kind of bonus, some kind of payoff, usually that then helps you build the thing you're trying to put together. And then finally down here we've got the enemy we're fighting. Most enemies have some kind of ability. And here we've got text. So this game is called Tales and Tactics, and there are tales in it. So there's little narrative. I mean, right now this is just gameplay text, but there are little events, like in a lot of Slay the Spire-esque games. There are events that come along and ask you to make a choice or give you some options, and they have what I would describe as very enthusiastically written flavor text. You know, some games they have like colored emphasis on some lines. This game has like many different colors and animations that it might use to emphasize text. Personally, I think it's a bit much, but it's hard to be like, they're too enthusiastic. And like I said, it does kind of, like I said, it has a very warm tone, and it kind of plays into that a little bit. But so far, I've not found the Tales part especially compelling. I think that's everything on the screen. Oh, here, took me a while to actually spot this, but here is your map, similar to the layout of the act ahead of you in Slay the Spire. We can see what boss we have up here. Oh, I can actually see what it does. Didn't notice that. Oh, here we have the inventory as well. There are items that you can slot onto your units. We don't have any yet. And there's a space here where something important will come up when we start playing units as well, which is traits. Just going to click through this. So units also have these icons here, which are traits. Traits are like creature types in card games. Every unit has 2, some units have 3. And basically getting groups of the same traits together gives you a benefit. So here I have 2 demons. If you get 3 different demons in play, you get a benefit. What have I got here? I've got 2 mush. Oh no, that's an orc. That looks like a mushroom, doesn't it? The 3D models are not very distinct. It's actually one of the things I'd really like to see punched up. Like this could use a lot more definition on the models themselves and more excitement. So basically, I want to try and assemble some group of units that synergize with each other. Really early on, it doesn't matter that much, especially as you start with a legendary unit, which are like, they have no traits, but they're more powerful on their own. This guy is actually really good. He pulls units in. Each unit has stats, but they also have like a spell, which they have a mana bar that fills up automatically. Sometimes it starts full. And when it fills up, they cast their spell, and then it resets back to 0. And the spells are what really make them sing. They are quite varied. They do a lot of different things, but they tend to... Synergizing your traits together is important because you get good bonuses. Synergizing your spells together to produce complicated synergies can be quite rewarding, and then also getting the items to emphasize the right stats or keep your units alive or whatever. There's lots of ways in which you can build a little engine. And then you also get these bonuses that can be quite significant. The starting character doesn't have a lot of very significant bonuses, but there's one of them, for instance. There's characters have this icon in this top left. There's 3, I can't remember what these are called. These are called vanguards. These are called casters, I think, and these are skirmishers. They don't matter, except there's one character who gives you a bonus if you don't have any of a particular type. So when I played them, I had only Vanguard units, and I got a massive bonus, or 2 massive bonuses, because I had no skirmishers and no casters. So different characters might interact with different builds as well. But again, this is the starter character. They're quite generic. So I think I've just explained the rules for like 10 minutes. So let's play the game. Early on, I'm going to be starting to look for, ideally, some trait combo to put together. But maybe some synergies wouldn't go amiss. This unit's pretty good. This guy's also pretty good. I could get these 2 demons. But you need 3 demons to get a benefit. So I'd have to try and find the other one. But we could look for that. Let's do it, why not? So I'm just going to click on both of these to buy them. You can see my money goes down. This is now flashing because I've already got another copy. Extra copies of them. If you get 3 copies of something, they combine and it increases in tier. You can see these all have a little 1 next to them. So duplicates are good. We want duplicates. Well, there's another one. And we hit the other demon as well. Game's being nice to me. Alright, so now you can see they all combine together and we have a tier 2 Sparky. I'm going to buy this guy as well. Right, if I now put all these in play, you can see on the top left we've got this display of our traits, and in particular this demon trait is active. So this one, after 2 of them are dead, the 3rd one gets a massive bonus basically. So we kind of want the 3rd one, the last one standing needs to be whatever the strongest one is. Or tankiest actually, because they get lifesteal and a bunch of shield. I think this guy is strong. He's just a good ranged attacker. This one also I quite like. This one's kind of crap, but he is tier 2. So I guess at this point it probably doesn't matter. You can right click on anything to read what it does. So they have 2 good ranged attackers. This guy heals, and this is more of like a tanky unit. If we kill the healer first, that sounds good. Units have a range. You can see the stats here. They've got damage, and you can mouse over it to see your DPS, which is convenient. This is the range, and you can also press shift to see where they can attack. So I can put this guy further away to keep him safe. Let's just do something like this. We still have another unit slot. I can fill it with this legendary. Or I can try and find something that fits one of these other... If we get a brawler, that would be quite good actually. Or an engineer. Or even a storm unit. I've still got 2 free rolls, so I could just go for it. Buy this guy to get the spirit bonus, but the spirit bonus isn't super exciting. Get more copies of this. Honestly, tearing this up is pretty good, but I'm out of money. So let's just roll once more, see if we hit anything good. There's the other spirit. If I don't buy anything, the units will stay there until the next turn. It doesn't automatically refresh. It's kind of annoying to be honest. But so I'll just leave this here. We can decide whether we want to go spirits afterwards. Let's just grab this. It's good because he pulls in enemies from far away, so we can grab one of these squishy ranged attackers and munch on them. Right, that's that done. Let's push the button. So now we just watch them fight. I am completely AFK, hands behind my head. Go and get a cup of tea. When I first heard about auto battlers, the idea seemed really strange to me. Like, why would you want to not do combat? Isn't that like fun and interesting? But I hadn't really thought of the notion of... It's a bit like if you played Magic drafts and you just drafted, but the draft went on for like ages, and you kept drafting and seeing more and more cards, more and more options, assembling different synergies, pivoting around. I guess a bit like playing Sushi Go, where it's just drafting, and then the actual combat is you just count some points and see who wins. It's a bit more like that. So here now we've got an event. I get to choose a side quest or this dice shrine. Let's go for this. So here we get some flavor text. I'll read it. The ringing of a bell catches your attention. Following the sound, in purple, you find a mostly empty table consisting of a few dice and an empty tray. The dice seem to shimmer in blue, as though calling out to you. It looks like some kind of game in green. There is a sign which has a little rhyme on it. And then here we get a... This is pretty typical of these type of choices. We get a choice with no downside, a stronger choice with a curse, which will... The more curses you have, the more likely units are in the store to have a chain on them, which makes them cost HP to buy, essentially. Or you can do nothing, and one of your tiles will give a little bonus to a unit that's placed there at the start of each fight. I'm going to go with this because XP is very good. Every time you fill up this level bar, right, you're about to see it, you can get a choice of new abilities. We get some more flavor text here. As soon as you pick up the dice, the tray begins to shimmer and hum as though excited to play the game. Shaking the dice in your hand, you toss them into the box. They roll and bounce before settling on 2 runes. Sure. You don't know what it means, but you feel renewed, refreshed, and just a little bit wiser. And just a little bit wiser. I'm being slightly mean to the text. Like, again, it's enthusiastic. It fits the tone of the game. I think the emphases on the colours are maybe not necessary, but perhaps it's just there to make the paragraphs look nicer. I could get behind that. This is the first time I've actually... This event shows up in most runs, and this is the first time I've actually properly read it. So I don't know how much the Tails part is kind of working super well at the moment. You know, something I was going to do. I really want to compare these flavor text screens to, at the beginning of a Vault of the Void run, there's like a shrine that gives you some starting options. And when you click on it, it goes to a full screen image, and there's sort of a pale blue-grey smoky background, and on the right is an image, a painting of this statue. Just some art, you know. Not an in-game painting with a frame, like it's just art. And then on the left, there's like one paragraph. I think it's like 1 or 2 sentences of flavor text. And then your options. And that's it. And just like this sparse, open display. And I think it's a bit easier to have an effect when your setting or your tone is more dramatic. Because in this case, Vault of the Void has like an eldritch, you know, cosmic horror kind of thematic to it. The Void is, you know, a big tentacle monster from beyond or whatever, right? That you fight at the end. Of course. So it's a bit easier for them to have the desired effect with less, with just a piece of art and like, you know, a couple of lines of text and maybe leave some open to interpretation. But if they can move in that kind of direction here, I think that would benefit a lot. So level ups. We can choose one of 3 bonuses. I think none of these are particularly good. We do get an option to reroll. What does a signed portrait do? That's actually not terrible. So this would give us an item. I don't know that we have any particularly good ones to put it on right now, so I might reroll and hope for something a bit more generic. Units gain +3 attack speed and +3 spell power for each active trait. That's the stuff at the left here. Oh, this one's good. Just gives you free units. Anything that gives you money and occasional RNG into filling up a synergy is good by me. What have they got? So this one dashes at your back line, which can be quite annoying, and it drains mana from them. So we might want to arrange ourselves specifically to protect this, or try and kill it first. If we can kill it before it activates, which it will do in about 11 or so seconds. Can we kill this thing in 11 seconds? Probably not. So we might want to position this closer, or even have it not be at the back for safety's sake. This is a tanky unit. What's this one? Oh yeah, this guy sucks. This card also sucks. But it has like an AoE attack, so I should make sure there's only one thing next to it, which the bot has conveniently helped with by positioning it in a corner. Right, do I want to go for spirits? I don't think so. I like this demon thing we've got going on. And Storm is very good. Storm is when you kill something, all of your units with the Storm trait like zip across the screen and hone in on another enemy. So as soon as something dies, your units will like bzzz, and then all gang up on something else, and then it dies and they bzzz, and they gang up on something else, and the NPCs are like chasing them around, trying to catch them. It's really good. So building that would be fun. This doesn't have, neither of these have Storm. Let's go for it. Let's use our free roll. Engineer. Engineer is kind of fine actually. Brawler would be better. Brawler's very good. I'm going to do a little... Let's invest, actually. I'll roll once, see if we get anything better. Just another copy of Sparky. Oh, we got the 2 spirits here, actually. But they don't... I think the demon buff is better than the spirit buff. The spirit buff, you can put a unit here on the right, and it will give you like an invulnerable copy of it, but it has less attack speed and mana. So it takes it a long time to do anything of note, which is awkward. I tried using it with like a unit that had a global taunt, but by the time it cast its spell, all my other stuff was dead. So I think I'll just stick with this setup as is. We'll buy this because extra copies are good if we're going to commit to this strategy. Let's leave that for now. I don't want this video to be too long, but maybe once I've explained a couple of... maybe if things start to speed up, maybe we can get as far as, I don't know, first boss or something. Oh, I should have said at the start, but there is a demo for this game, which I would heartily recommend because it will cost you nothing except the time it takes to play it. When you lose a fight, you lose 2 hearts, unless it's a boss, in which case it's 4, or it's one of those like devil bargain optional things that I talked about, in which case it's also 4. And you'll notice that means if you lose to a boss or a devil fight, you just die. There are a couple of ways of getting more than 4 HP, but 4 is mostly the maximum. I don't think that's a particularly great decision. Like, for the most part, taking 2 damage from a normal fight is okay, because you regain 1 after other fights, and if your build is at all viable, you're going to be winning most fights. but it does mean that like any power spike, like a boss or an optional challenge, just can end your run very easily because the game's power scaling is very tightly constrained. I'll talk about that more in a bit. Actually, no, I'll just cover it now. Why not? While we're clicking through things. Just go with this. So I think I've basically already covered everything that happens as far as building up your faction goes. You want to get your traits. You do unlock a couple extra board slots, but you get up to 6, which is not a huge number. You get access to uncommon and rare units, but they're not drastically more powerful than the common ones. Like if you've got high tier common units late in the game, they will work, which is good. I think that's good. And you can put items on them, but again, item slots are also limited. So there's only so far you can go. It's not like Monster Train where the ceiling on Monster Train synergies is so absurd. You know, and that there are legit ways to go infinite in that game, but there are also a ton of, like, it's pretty standard to go massively go off, and that's actually how you beat the game on high difficulties. Like, you can't just put some stuff together. Here, the synergies are in this weird middle ground between they do actually feel satisfying to do, but they're not actually that splashy. If you don't do them, you will lose, and you'll die. But if you do them, you don't get that much payoff. And compared to Hearthstone Battlegrounds, where the scaling is like, that did surprise me. I don't know how it compares to other auto chess variants. Like, I haven't played any of the others, so this might be normal. But I actually think it would be cool to see more ridiculous scaling if you're going to go in a direction of like, well, the moment you fall behind, you die. I'd actually like to see a bit more middle ground of like, if falling behind means death, can we add more to the ceiling? And maybe require it, sure. It's a problem to solve. But like, keeping up is not as compelling as like, okay, I need to do something ridiculous to beat this game or beat, you know, on this high difficulty. As opposed to like micro optimizations with not super obvious value, which is currently what I'd say is the case. There's definitely been runs where I've started and then I've just petered out and died very quickly, and I've not really been cognizant of why, other than like, well, I guess maybe this strategy is just bad. That's why I'm not going for the spirits thing, because I tried it and I died. So presumably it's just weak because I did the thing, you know? So I'd like to see, I've been benefiting from this game being very relaxing, but I actually kind of would like it to be more challenging in the sense of like, I want to have more powerful, but also more varied options for certain things, more scaling. Anyway, on with the show. So now we can choose between 2 fights, and these ones have passives and different rewards as well. So this is generally the pattern. You'll have a choice. Other than boss fights, you'll get 2 opponents that you can choose. And I like the ones with more XP. Gold is not super valuable. So I'm going to go for this one. Who also adorably makes all your stuff actually bigger. So here we can see they've got a tier 2 unit. Broadly speaking, the enemy's power curve kind of keeps up with... Again, you have to kind of match roughly what they're doing. Like, if I had tier 1 units with no synergy, I would lose this fight pretty hard. I may yet. I don't really know how good this is. Let's see if we can just get some more tier upgrades. I think we've taken this particular build about as far as it goes. Unless we get a good brawler or a storm unit. I forget exactly what those units are. Oh, here's the brawler. Yeah, let's get this guy in. This unit's really strong. It's a tank that like can block damage and then retaliate with a burst of magic damage. And he just has like tons of HP, even with no upgrades. Just a huge, thick lad. is all faster. So this now activates our Brawler passive as well, which makes them thicker again. The tier 4 Brawler ability is really good. As they take damage, they are constantly doing AoE around them that scales based on their HP. Very, very strong. So that's a good direction to build in. That's just this. I'm going to sell this. Oh, there's literally a Brawler here. I didn't even notice. That's an uncommon as well. Right, that was the one I started with. Maybe I should be running this guy instead of faster. How much is damage did he do? 64 versus 39. It's a lot more damage at the cost of a bit less HP. And his ability is quite splashy. Yeah, why not? He's cool. You can sell things for the same cost you buy them in this game, which is kind of interesting. Now, this is an Orc and a Storm unit. I don't want to give up my Demon synergy just yet, but I might buy this for later. So this is filling up, which might cause problems. We're going to have to sell some stuff, but that's not a huge issue. There's another copy of Sarfan, so now we've got him to tier 2. And we're out of money. That'll do me. How is my positioning for this fight? We've got a Torque. Here's an AoE attack, so maybe let's shimmy this guy over here. This will run at this backliner once he gets enough mana, which is good. We'll go kill him. Uro will also curse this, which is good. Yeah, this looks decent. You can change the speed. I typically put it on the higher speed when I'm playing, but I'll leave it on the normal speed for now because it's a bit easier to parse what's going on. Again, you don't really need to parse what's going on, but it's it's helpful to know how your combos actually work. You can see here this Orc has some circles around him. That's the Orc's trait ability. We are losing this fight. That honestly surprises me. The shield did some work here. Oh, actually, no, we're totally fine. Okay. Tier 2 Zephyr carried. Thank God for that. You take the same amount of damage regardless of what margin you win by, unlike the PvP auto battlers, where there's typically a big health bar, but if you lose the bigger a margin of winning or losing a fight, the more damage the loser takes. So we got another event here. This one will give us a unit. Again, they've all got these little rhymes that let you know that you can have one thing or you can accept some curses for more things. This is hench. These are both tier 3 units. Oh, sorry, tier 3. These are both rare units, which we don't normally have access to for a long time. This could be interesting to swap in to get the engineer bonus instead of brawler. Ordinarily, I would say that's worse, but Brim is pretty strong. Or we just take this. This doesn't synergize with any of our stuff, but we can sell her for 6 gold. No, I'm going to take this, actually. So you can see we didn't have space for all the units, but that doesn't really matter. We get some flavor text. It immediately trembles and sparks fly. So there's some bold text now. Bold and italicized. Honestly, it's sweet. I'm taking the piss a little bit, but it's sweet. Right, now we get to the shop. The shop allows you to unlock a new tier of unit as well. So we're going to get 2 of our slots now show uncommon units instead of commons. I actually like to try and get any tier upgrades that I'm aiming for now before getting the upgrade, because tearing up your commons is much easier when you've got 5 potential slots instead. I'm going to sell some stuff. We don't actually need this faster because we've got this instead. Unless we want it for later, try and get more brawlers. If you right click on this, you can see what other units are available. So if we get rid of faster, we can't get the 4th brawler until rares. On the flip side, this card is extremely strong, I think. And this guy isn't bad either. I believe there's no pair of cards with the same 2 traits on. They're all different, so you can never have like you know, if you wanted this guy, for instance, you wouldn't try and go, oh, okay, I need to find the other skeleton duelist. You can have another skeleton, but it'll be a mage, and then maybe you'll have a mage tree folk or whatever. There are items you can put on units that give them more traits. It's one of the main ways of filling out your trait slots, especially if you're trying to get the full, like level 2 bonuses, which for some of them are very worth it, some of them less so. Like the orc one, for instance. When orcs take damage, they rage, which makes them take less damage for a bit, and then it buffs the other units permanently. And the level, if you get 5 orcs, they take even more less damage for 5 seconds. But that's like probably not really worth pursuing. But the level 2 orc is very good, like the permanent buff. The flip side is that all of these also only apply to units with the trait. So the more of them you have, the better. But it's very difficult to max out more than one trait. You can do it, especially with there are some units that have 3 traits, and they're a bit easier to try and stack up. So I'm going to do this, and it's going to give us our uncommon units. Well, there's an orc and a spirit unit. Did I keep... No, it's just because one of these... Why is it telling me that... Oh, this is a spirit unit. Of course it is. Again, I'm not too worried about the spirit thing. She doesn't have a 3rd type. It's a good amount of damage. Actually, not that exciting. This guy is very good. It's Global Silence, which prevents them from casting spells. If the timing for this lines up with when they would cast, it's very strong. I am probably just going to sell it though. For now, what are we doing? We want to probably get more of these, right? Level up this guy. Look for storm units, I think would be a good direction to go in. Well, that's an orc and an engineer. Might be worth it. We do also have this orc with storm here. You know what, actually, I might just invest. This build is kind of okay. I know we only barely won the last fight. But I think we're in a reasonable spot. I could swap this out for this. No, I think that's unnecessary. Right, the shop. Ooh, that's exciting. Storm Warbanner. So this allows us to turn a unit into a storm unit, which we've already got one, and we were looking for another. This might give us a good shot to getting the level 4 as well, which is very strong. So I'm just going to buy this outright. You can reroll the shop indefinitely for 1 gold. Gold is like fairly easy to come by, and you don't get that many shops. You see them 3 times in the run. So generally speaking, you can just buy stuff. But the question is, who am I going to turn into a storm unit? This one already dashes around, which you could argue either way whether that's good to have. It is a demon, which overlaps with our other storm unit. And then it's higher tier than this. I mean, I want to get Uro up as well, because Uro is good. But since it's already tier 2, I think it's safer just to commit to this. It also means that when we deliver that zap onto something, it's going to be more effective. All units are silent and can't cast their skill. That's boring, but doesn't super punish us, I would say. Yeah, sure. We'll risk it. Okay. So they're about as strong as us in terms, at least as far as tiers go. Haven't gained any money since we last looked at it, but we do have these items that we can use to generate some more units. And what I could do is fish for extra things to try and get, if I can get more of these, more of the Sparky card, we could get that to tier 3, and that would be quite a boost here. Same with this guy. We get more of him. But I think maybe we're on full HP, so I can afford to be conservative. I have too many potions. I have to use a potion. That's fine. Let's put on this guy because he buffs his attack speed. I'll just show you what it looks like on fast mode. It's going to be, no one can cast spells in this fight, so it's going to be fairly dry. But we will see the bzzzt. And then if we get another kill, it'll trigger again. Or we might just lose, that works too. Holy crap, again, I was not expecting to lose this hard. He is the Demon Lord though, so he might be able to carry. This is the Demon passive coming in. He gets lifesteal. Can my Zephyr with no health left beat this Orc? No, not quite. That's a shame. And again, it's close. Oh yeah, why did I use the Mono Potion when it was silenced? That was silly of me. Should have used the other one. Whatever. Okay, so we can have... Oh, that's good. More demon bonuses. That's actually fantastic for me. Okay, this is really good because now we get to actually... As soon as we get the extra slot, we can field the full 5 demons. Here we get another event. In this case, we have to choose between 2 people who are having an argument, I think I mentioned before. Some discussion. I'll read out, why not? Near the market, away from the busy crowd, you notice a pair of Daya, who I guess are the tournament combatants, I don't actually know, in a heated argument. Otto, a childlike construct, is sitting across from the silent skull known as River at some sort of game. Otto not understand. How Otto know what color lie is? Words use ears, not eyes. Otto looks up as you get closer, speaking slowly. I guess I should do an Otto voice. New friend, lie is bad in all colors, yes? White and blue and red and... I'll be honest, I don't really understand this. Now, River gives you war banners, which are the things that allow you to gain more traits. So I basically always pick her. Otto, I think, gives you extra units, which are not super useful. I'm not a big fan of legendary units. So we can make something a dragon, which doesn't super benefit us right now, or a marksman likewise. This will give us bonuses to buying war banners that makes them cheaper. And I think she gives you a free one before the last boss as well. So we'll just do this. And there's some text where River shows you some tapestry. Which I do quite like this actually. River's some sort of weaver and doesn't speak but communicates through tapestry and art, which I quite like that. Like there's definitely some really nice ideas in here about, you know, the characters that they've chosen to present. So we've come to our first boss. I think I'll do this fight and then stop. It seems like a good place. So Trollgar is a big tank. He has a spin and an AoE stun. Bosses all come with these minions, which are unique units that are specific to that fight. These protection totems, they don't do anything, but they make him tankier, and when they die, he loses a bunch of health. So the thing with this, it's an auto battler, so your units will run at the nearest thing they can attack. So finding ways to get to these can be tricky, and is kind of an interesting puzzle. So in this case, we have a unit that will dash at the furthest away opponent. We can use this guy to pull somebody in. It might actually be worth swapping that in favor of our Orc here. We lose the Brawler bonus, but we kill these more quickly, which is actually very, very impactful. Also, if we kill them, it might trigger our Storm passive, which allows us to zip around. Now, I'm obviously I'm running out of space here as well, which is of potential concern. So let's think about... I also kind of maybe want to give something a demon banner, but getting the 4th demon isn't super necessary. It just means that if this one... No, not even that. If that one's the last one alive, it won't make a difference. So I need to make some space by the end of this fight. I definitely don't need this. I probably don't need this. So let's look for duplicates to level up our units. And then also maybe... No, I think all we need is duplicates right now. We can use these common duplicators. These are from the vault that I invested in. We can get extra duplicates using these items. So for instance, I can get 2 common duplicate. Actually, I'm going to do this now. Oh, maybe let's see what the shop gets me. Or I could use this. I have lots of options right now. Let's use this first. Those are all useless, I think. That's another storm unit. I might keep hold of that. These we don't need. But that's, you know what, that's for free money. I'll take it. Which I'm going to spend on rerolls. Let's go. Okay, so we're mostly looking for duplicates at this point. There's a Sparky. Now we only need 1 more Sparky. There's a Morita, which is great. And we can use an uncommon duplicator to finish that off, but I'll do another reroll or 2. Another one of this. Here you can see the chained units. We don't need these, fortunately. 1 more roll. Another Safan. Okay, so now I can just use all my duplicators to get these leveled up with the extra copies I already have. And this makes our build a lot stronger. I kind of want Uro to die first because I want someone else to be the Demon Lord. Do I make this one a demon anyway? You know what I might do is look at some of these items. So the items you typically get as components, and 2 components will merge into another item. So in this case I have a crystal and a staff, which between them would be an orb of flame. Or I can put them on 2 separate units if this isn't useful. So it gives you a bunch of spell power, which makes your it scales this blue number. In this case, Zafan fires 2 lasers and he buffs his attack damage. So having him cast his spell more is very good because it scales him. First 4 times the wearer casts their spell, they gain spell power equal to 20% of spent mana. So it'll scale even harder. That's pretty good. Given so far he's been dying last time, I might just do that. So we'll scale this up. Should hit nice and hard. And then we can look at whether we want to turn this into a demon. So in this case it would not contribute meaningfully to upgrading our demon bonus yet, but it can potentially become the Demon Lord. I think that's actually bad. I really want this to become the Demon Lord. So if these 2 are left alive, he will upgrade. Whereas if I make this a demon, that's actually not the case. So I think we're just going to leave it like this. So we're going to have, once this spell triggers, he's going to run at one of these and hopefully kill it, which will bring the boss's HP down a lot. In the meantime, we're hoping these will keep it busy. Is there anything else worth rolling for at this juncture? I don't think so. Oh, actually, we've got these potions too. So we get these we get these from the character. They start with them. This makes this much easier because what I can do is grab this, put it over here, and then I can move the boss as well, move it away, or I can just pull the other one up. In fact, why don't I just do that? Because the Singrim gains 2 potions of telekinesis at the beginning of every act. So what I can do is something like this, where we're just going to kill the totems really early. Uro can chump block, that's fine. Sorry, Uro. I do like this card, but he's only tier 1. He can die, it's fine. Let's put this on normal speed for dramatic effect. So because we moved the totems, they're now getting killed, and the boss should melt pretty easily. See, he's got that AoE stun. So every once in a while he does the spin and swaps places with someone. That's his spell, and then every 3rd spell cast he does the AoE stun. Come on. Die already. There we go. We did it. A little touch and go. This build seems to be slightly weak, but the Demon Lord on a scaled up Zafan is pretty nice. It's a good early carry. It's pretty, the common units that you have access to at the start they have a lot of these like just good ranged attackers that if you put a bunch of items on them and get them to a high tier and then enable their trait benefits, basically if you jump through the hoops of doing the game mechanics in the game, they become quite good carries. And similarly, there's a lot of good tanks early on. Like most of the good frontliners in the game are just like commons you get early on. And then the rare units tend to do things like more advanced crowd control. It's quite a nice balance. You start out with basic effects, and you still need those basic effects the whole way through the game. It's very rare that you end up with no common units in your deck in your build at the end, because you just have these units that you've upgraded to tier 3 or 4, and they've got big stats. It's very difficult to get a rare unit to tier 3 or 4 by the end of the game. Without good high rolls or maybe using the vault to get duplicators to get more copies. Let's go here so you can see the process of raising your army size. That was it. I raised my army size. But this is definitely the most exciting part of the run for me, because the natural development of like unlocking the uncommon and rare units and then also getting the army size, they're offset, and I find that really interesting, because it would not naturally occur to me that they should be. You know what I mean? They seem like the sort of thing that would go together. You've like reached... I mean, in Hearthstone Battlegrounds, for instance, when you upgrade the Tavern tier, which increases the ceiling on the rarity of units you can get, it increases the size of the shop. Whereas here, the board size in Battlegrounds is constant, but here because of the way the traits work, having an extra board space and then a sixth space later on really allows you to actually start synergizing with stuff. And it relies on having different units. So early on, without some thing that generated an uncommon or rare card, you actually can't fill out more than the basic. Like there are 2 brawlers at common. There are 3 demons at common. There are 2 storm cards at common, for instance, and so on. Most of the time, you can't fill out the later stage until the end. For one reason or another, the brawlers, it looks like you can actually do it using commons and uncommons. Storm, you also can, but demons you can't finish until tier 3, typically, I believe. Yeah, those last 2, they're res. You can see by the blue border around the icons. So it does vary, but for the most part, it's tricky. And then, of course, if you just go all in on one trait, you'll probably neglect the rest of your build. So in practice, it's very difficult to get much going until late on. Which is, I mean, it's good. It's clearly intentional. It's the main tension in the game and the thing that makes the builds interesting. And there's a decent amount of room to pivot, I would say. Most of the pivoting in this game, I think, is accomplished through explicit mechanics that you can unlock and add to the game that allow you to pivot. Like, some of the level ups will offer you, like, gain a bunch of upgraded skeleton units or whatever. And it's literally called skeleton pivot or duelist pivot or whatever. So there are things like that explicitly allow you to jump the curve on, typically the way you get high tier units is just by refreshing the shop a bunch of times, buying 12 of the same thing, which takes a long time, a lot of money, and especially for uncommon and rare units where you can't see very many of them at the time is quite difficult. So pivoting, usually your build gets settled. So far, my builds have mostly been settled early on. By this point in the game, I typically know what I'm trying to do. But because of the extra board spaces, and because of other synergies that can come in with like upgrades and things that you unlock, like these upgrades up here, most of them aren't that swingy, but some of them can be, and sometimes you get a build around or an item that enables a different synergy that allows you to take your build in a slightly different direction. But most of the time what happens is you're like, okay, well I've gone demons, right? And then I saw the opportunity to get some storm stuff going, and I was like, okay, yeah, we can, with the storm war banner, we can do that. Because I was already interested in that. And then, okay, maybe I add this Nimbus to my build, right? He's an elemental duelist as well as being a storm unit. Just to have a third storm unit for the sake of argument. Well, can I get a second elemental or a second duelist to improve that? Can I start enabling that? And with war banners and other things, you can have some interesting additional synergies start to build up. And some of the traits go quite well with each other. So stacking things like traits that affect casting a spell, for instance, like mushroom. There's mushroom people in this game. Mushrooms. Oh, here's one. Mushrooms get more mana to start with, so their first spell cast happens more quickly. And then when they cast, it upgrades the spells. And then if you have enough of them, they fill each other's mana up as they cast as well. Mages, the mage trait lets you cast more. It makes you cast twice. So it would double trigger this extra, these scaling benefits. So if you get a bunch of mushrooms and mages through war banners or whatever, I think there is a mushroom mage unit. It's tier 3 though. Sorry, it's rare. Battlegrounds terminology. But if you get a bunch of mushrooms and mages together, now you actually have an interesting engine. Because those traits synergize very well. And so if you get a couple of war banners or units that cross the divide, you can put together very powerful synergies. And that's kind of, in my experience so far, that's kind of been the direction the late game goes in. That is somewhat biased by my preference for accumulating as many war banners as I can and trying to get the more and more traits online. I think one run I had 7 traits active, just from like tons of banners and random synergies and stuff. Usually it's way fewer than that though. But the bonuses do stack pretty interestingly. I do find that development compelling. Like, one of the things that's odd about this game is that the end of it is a little bit of a squib. Like that boss fight was, there was a unique boss with unique minions that I had to like strategize specifically. You basically do what I've done so far 3 times, like a set of fights and events up to a boss. And then there's the tournament. And during the tournament, you don't get any rewards from fights. So your build stops progressing. And then you just do like 3 normal fights in a row that are like, they're hard normal fights. There's lots of tier 3, tier 4 units. The person who I displeased in that conversation earlier will be the final. They'll be the person who's, meets me in the finals of the tournament or whatever, and they've got some upgrade because they're annoyed at me. It's just the way it goes apparently. But there's no, there isn't, at least at the moment, there isn't like a climactic final boss encounter, and the fact that your build stops going makes it a little disappointing. Which I think is partly due to, I was talking earlier about having more aggressive, high-ceilinged scaling. By the time you reach this point in the run, I feel like this game has a very intentional power curve where it progresses within this pretty narrow band, and like if you fall below it, you'll take damage, and if you lose 2 fights in a row, that's it, you're out. Or if you die to a boss, you're out, right? But then also, if you I managed to lose my train of thought by thinking about the analogous strategy in Battlegrounds, which is like taking damage early to power level, to play greedy, which you can't really do in this game. Like, there's the invest button, but it just spares you from re-rolling. So it's not really the same. So I feel like I would like to see some other scaling mechanism. And I don't know if this game needs more mechanics per se, but I think it could still benefit from one in at least that way. right? There's already a lot of stuff on the screen, but in Battlegrounds, buying and selling units to like trigger their battle cries, which is like when played effects, is one of the main ways that you scale. There are other ways as well, and they add more mechanics over time that mix that up. Like at the moment, there's no spells in the game, so there's like non-unit things in the tavern that have an immediate effect. And I think was it Storybrooke Brawl had something like that as well. And so you can buy those to have like you can buff something permanently with this spell without having to have room in your build or hit the specific one, I just need another copy of this thing. I would actually like to see something like that. Something that allows you to scale a little harder, think a little more, and be a bit more flexible. And be greedier. I kind of want to be able to play greedy in this game. Or, choose to play greedy or for tempo. And maybe to be paid off for getting an early tempo lead by being able to do something greedy afterwards. Which you can do in most deck, but like if you hit a point of strength in a deck building roguelike, or most even combat roguelikes, you can coast for a bit and save your resources, right? And if you choose to fall behind in order to be greedy, that's a decision you can make. You can't really do that in this game. You have to keep up, and there's no real way to be paid off for being greedy. But I would love something like that, some kind of more nuanced decision. I think this game, I don't know how long they're planning on staying in early access. There's clearly, I think the UI needs some love, like the 3D meshes probably could use some more detail and clearer presentation. It's very difficult to tell what anything is from this top-down angle. And you can't zoom. I would love to be able to zoom in and look at stuff. But I think the overall aesthetic and idea that they're going for is nice. And the game is very relaxing. I find it's comforting. I've gotten my money's worth out of it, certainly over this weekend. I don't tend to like binge games either. So it's quite unusual for me, but I just, right place at the right time, It's really hit the spot. And I'm certainly appreciative of it for that. But in terms of like things I'd love to see them build on or experiment with over the early access period, more scaling, more challenging, more skill expression. That isn't just like, I don't think I'm necessarily good at this game in the sense that I don't think I know what the right play is at any time, because the amount of information and the probabilities involved are too vast. But I feel like if I had a bunch of extra knowledge, applying it would be straightforward. You just, when you get like trackers in like Hearthstone Arena or whatever that tell you the rating of each card, you could have a bot that told you the probability of a decision paying off or whatever, and that would kind of, you just click on the thing with the highest number every turn, and that would kind of probably play the game. Like that would work for the most part. There are some things that throw a wrinkle into that, but like I think the main challenge from this game comes from navigating its information density. And maybe it's not even meant to be challenging, right? I've talked about it being relaxing and how beneficial that was. And like the game isn't necessarily easy. Like if you just close your eyes and pick random units, you'll die immediately. You still have to do the thing. But I kind of want to see more ways to explore the mechanics like you can in card games. More experimentation and weird stuff that makes you play in a different way. I think the one character I mentioned where if you only have one of the classes of card, it gives you a bonus was quite fun, but I think that would get old. But stuff like that at least is a step in the right direction. I'm going to wrap this video up. I knew this would happen. I said half an hour ago that I didn't want it to be long, and look where we are. But you know what? As I've said before, I readily embrace my status as a second monitor content creator. That's totally fine. I guess quick note on more videos. So obviously I haven't made anything in a while primarily because I haven't been playing Duelist. I want to make a video on Cyberpunk 2077, but in order to do that, I first have to finish the game, which basically just means I have to go and play the ending at some point. I've not been doing it while lumbered with COVID because I've not wanted something too emotionally intense. But I've got a lot of hours in the game at this point. What I've been mostly playing. There's also, as of like right now, as I record this, there are reveals coming on for the first half of Duelist 2's first expansion. And I will probably make something around that either as it releases or a spoiler video or something. We'll see how I feel. But so far, they seem to have revealed cards that are priced to move, which is good because I think having more options and something to shake up the game, shake up the meta is sorely needed. As before, I don't really have any intention of going and getting back on the Duelist 2 ladder unless it changes quite drastically, I think, unless I fall in love with it, basically. So I'll be mostly looking at things through a gauntlet lens and like just general thoughts on how they might play in a more generic constructed setting. But that's certainly something that I'll try out as they come out. But yeah, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you again hopefully sooner rather than later.